Afternoon. Sorry, sneaking in a cheeky packet of crisps as it's a very busy day for calls.
Cheeky packet of crisps, outrageous.
Cheeky packet of crisps, wheat crunchies. Can't be a bit of wheat crunchies.
Not had wheat crunches for a very long time. Um, Welcome to the 30 Days of Testing stream. I am in a different place. I am in my office for the first time, which is great. There's absolutely nothing in here yet, like useful anyway. Um, but I needed to bring some stuff here, so I thought I'd stay here. But it will be really nice at some point, and I'm sure I'll show you all once it's done. But we are here for 30 Days of Tools. Again, if you've not seen it before, 30 Days of Tools is our 30 Days of Testing initiative, but this time we're focusing on tools, and we are on day 14. So for each day during the challenge, Mark eats crisps. Perhaps I just mute Mark. There we go. Right, boom, like Mark's gone. So we are on day 14. We basically give you a challenge each day, and it's about getting you all connected, sharing your expertise, sharing content that you're aware of, and just generally, making connections with people who have, similar experiences or interest in tools like you do. So I'll unmute Mark now because he stopped eating his really loud wheat crunches.
Thank you. They are the loudest of the crisps.
I was about to say, yeah, you've selected relatively well for a stream, in terms of disruption. Like, obviously not like shutting up and being quiet, but in terms of like how much noise can I make?
Tomorrow it's pork scratchings.
Ooh, that would be bad. Yeah,
bad. For many reasons.
Okay, so let's jump into challenge 14. So, Mark, I know you've read this because you just said you've got something, so I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to let you go first because I don't know what this is yet. So, challenge 14 is share a tool that you use one way in one context and another way in a different context. That's challenge 14.
Yes. Yeah, so this one was, a specific tool jumped out straight away for me, and that is JMeter. So, predominantly JMeter is thought of as a performance testing tool, and that's what I've used it for in the past. But I've actually used it, I think, kind of before, like Postman has kind of taken this space for me personally, but for a long time it used to be my sort of data generation tool as well to do things on the sort of API HTTP layer. So if I wanted to just get a load of data into a system for any sort of exploratory testing purposes, I actually had little JMeter scripts set up, and they'd literally just have one thread. So it's not like I'm trying to ramp up stuff, but I'd have like CSV files of stuff to create in. And then what I'd do is I'd just use the toggle feature to toggle things off depending on what I wanted created at a certain point. So yeah, it's kind of in those two different ways. I suppose arguably, like, you can use JMeter like to set up your test data for a performance test. So there's the idea of like a pre-test plan thing. But yeah, I don't think many people just use it to create scripts to generate test data that way. So yeah, that'd be my one.
No, I think you're right. I think like predominantly like full-blown performance, all the features are kind of named, aren't they, really, for that kind of process?
Yeah.
I've got a few, and I know there's an answer that will be in the club thread for sure, right? So I think I'm gonna jump ahead to some that I'm not gonna answer with the one I have yet. I'm gonna pick out some that I think will come up. First one, Excel. Testers love Excel.
Yeah.
So if Excel isn't in the thread, I'll be very surprised because I've seen people use it for literally full-blown test case management, creating crazy reports that people don't read. I've used it to create data, just taking advantage of the quick formulas and stuff like that. You were doing something wacky. I know it wasn't Excel, but like Google Sheets and like the APIs and stuff now. So like obviously like Excel's even these cloud-based versions of Excel and stuff are quite powerful as well. Another one that comes to mind like would be Terminal. So things like Bash, obviously use it so many things that we have build scripts at MOT, but also I've used it in the past. Mentioned a few times like things like doing curl requests, curl clip. These little tools.
Do you know, it's funny you mentioned terminal
How
stuff,
can I
and
add
then
that?
lo and behold, Lim shows up.
There we go.
That's
Lim's
kind of
just chipping
spooky.
in don't knock Excel, you'll offend Ashby. Oof. I send away, I will. Yeah, but I think the answer that I'm going to give is an obvious one. But I'm going to go with Selenium. Purely, but I'm not sure if it changes, because I'm still using it to drive a browser.
Yeah.
So, but the reason why I'm driving the browser is what changes. So predominantly automated testing, automated checking. But in the past, there's quite a few blogs out there. I've used it, to write scripts to create data. I've used it for monitoring. I've used it to get me to a certain step on an application, so I can carry on and do different testing from there. So I'm not sure if it's I am changing the way I use it, but I'm still using it to drive a browser.
Yeah, because that's one thing I was going to say with the terminal one is like those tools are actually deliberately designed to be as generic as possible so they can be applied. And they came up yesterday when I was talking to Dan about it, but the whole idea is they do one thing very specific, but the whole goal is that you connect them all together. But I think that, I think if you took sort of popular convention and beliefs around a tool, I think that, you are doing something different because Selenium becomes synonymous with UI automation when, like say it is a piece of the puzzle. It's just driving the browser. It's not doing the rest of it. So there's that sort of aspect to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any more, any tool that's just a bit wacky before we go to the thread, but I can't. Nothing's jumping out at me.
I suppose my one that I've mentioned
before. Testing tool, but yeah, go on.
Well, the Chrome extension thing, I think, is probably an example of that as well, because that's something that, like, my intention is never to release that Chrome extension onto the marketplace or anything like that. It's purely for myself. But again, it's that tooling allows me the ability to do that. So it's that thing. I know I've mentioned before, like the Pawnzilla one as well, for like scraping sites and stuff like that for security purposes and that thing.
Well, I think the one that just jumped out actually mentioned extensions would be Devtools. So, because there's so many ways we can use Devtools, that you're still using Devtools, but I've used it for accessibility, used it for obviously developing, used it for getting IDs, used it for performance tracking, mobile emulation, all sorts of different possibilities in the DevTools space. So
used it to get behind ad blockers.
Yes.
Delete the overlay and continue reading the article, that sort of thing.
Imagine being challenged. I've never had a feature like that, where you're being challenged to stop people doing that stuff. How much these companies are investing, to literally make it really difficult just to find the right element and delete it, and not load the whole page, or so much reverse, trying to reverse engineer people's behaviors to stop you from doing it.
I've seen where you can delete the overlay, but you can't scroll. But you can still use the keyboard, and it's that sort of it does. But you can very,
but you just need to go and fix the overflow. So they've removed the overflow as being not enabled. So if you go and put the overflow back, then you can scroll again. So let's have a look. It'd be a bit tricky for me to see Mark. Oh no, I'm gone now. The tool's helping me out. Excellent. So Simon, as awesome as ever, has given us a little few snippets. What about that context that made you use it that way? Is there any crossover, and how does the context influence use of the same tool? So quite a good one. Just try and get Han in. There we go. Sorry, I'm really struggling. I'm on my laptop, and I've usually got 3 screens nicely around me.
Yeah, you don't know where your shiny overlays
today. I've got one tiny screen right now. Han Lim. I don't think we've seen Han Lim during the challenges yet, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he added a few previously. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Han's chipping in with mind maps. It's a great answer because there's so many things you can collect on a mind map. You can strategize, test ideas. You can even manage your testing. You can take all your notes on a mind map. He's mentioned preparing a workshop here. He's used it for blog posts, managing a to-do. So yeah, I think mind maps is a great example.
Yeah. Christoph is actually pretty much sort of in the same sort of space as me about using JMeter for performance tests. Because you can also do functional API testing with JMeter as well, but that's not the thing that it's known for. Even though it is available to do that sort of things. But it's the same sort of. He's kind of sort of touched on it similarly, but he hasn't talked about the data generation idea that I was talking about. I don't recognise Risco Roos.
No, I don't either. I was trying to hover over, but it's not being my friend, not showing me anything. But let's see what they've chipped in with. So basically they're quite interested in that they've built an end-to-end framework, but then it looks like they're just using bits of it to do other things. So like they've mentioned in like using it to create the test data. So their end-to-end test data already, so just using it to create data, using it to create data for crowdsourced testers, again, more data over the API, and then generating load, using the end-to-end test to generate a bit of load.
Yeah.
So kind of slightly like one tool like with many purposes, I guess.
It reminds me of your jigsaw principle that you talked about in your automation in testing talk, like years ago at TestBash, when you were like, that sort of idea of you can have your framework, but if you have distinct libraries or distinct responsibilities in them, then you can plug and play them and use them in different ways. Like if you have a tool that can generate data and it's easily accessible, then it can be used by a series. Like it could easily be called by your UI automation as it could be like a Slack bot or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
that's
build
a good
them into
example.
like standalone independent things.
Yeah, and your Slack one as well that you've talked about before, building a Slack bot to generate test data. I think that's a good example as well of a tool that's not necessarily intended for that purpose, but became useful.
Let you take this one, but we've got one of our test.bash speakers up next, Jazz.
Yeah. So Jazz talking about Charles, never heard of it. But I think, his example here is obviously Charles has a lot of features, but being able to build your own mock server by using, is it Map Local?
You can do it that way, there's a few ways,
Yeah. I think what's interesting actually when he mentions mock server as well is that mocks were deliberate, not deliberately, but they were designed with in mind to assess if things are called in a certain way. So, the idea being rather than a set on data, it's sort of, I am a mock and this thing that you tested called me in a way that met your expectations. But actually, a lot of the time now we use mocks for like controlling test data and we don't use any of that sort of assertion side of things. I've used mocks before in pull pattern architectures. So I just update the mock again and again and again to see what actually changes in the UI.
Yeah.
And I'm actually asserting and looking at that stuff down the other end of the system. So I think there's that as well with mocks. But I like that he uses it with all sorts of different tools as well in conjunction with it. So you remember?
Talk. I think there was a 99-minute workshop or something that went there. I think it was Chris, wasn't it? He did a talk whose surname's eluding me for now.
Chris Champ.
Yeah, Chris Champ did a mock spy fake.
With Ash Winters as well.
Because I think you're right. They are separate things like mocks, stubs, fakes, etc. They did all have different purposes, but they do all kind of be like morphed into this one thing now that we just call mocking. But anyway, onwards.
Yeah.
So Mickey's like, tough question. Yeah, we know don't want to make your life easy, Mickey. So I can't think of any tool, but things like Postman, they have multiple features. You can create documentation, visualize, and stuff like this. But it's a great example. So, it's a tool of that has multiple features. So in some contexts, you can use Postman to do your testing. In other contexts, you can use it, to create data. pull the documentation out so you can do stuff with it. So again, it makes perfect sense. It's depending on what you need to do. Like you might join a context that is already using, I don't know, like Pour or Rest Assured or a completely different tool to do all their API testing. So you're not going to use Postman to suddenly start doing all that because there's a lot of work been done by other people already. So yeah, no, that's an excellent answer.
I think also as well, like sort of calling out that it is a tricky question. I think it's one of the reasons why we added it as a challenge is to get people thinking, like, what alternatives could I use this tool for? We first establish how to use it in the correct manner, but there's all sorts of different ways. I remember Alan Richardson, Evil Tester, talking about how he uses Cucumber, not to do any of that sort of end-to-end automation stuff, but because it's just a regex matcher. He uses the regex matching stuff to do interesting things, again, like around data setup or just manipulating things in certain different ways as well. So yeah, it's as much about sort of getting you thinking about tools in this way as it is actually providing answers to it.
But I would also add, actually, on reflection, I think it's a little bit as well of having the incentive to dig a little deeper into some tools. So, someone might show you Child's Proxy, and they might show it you just purely to intercept traffic, right? And they, that's what you needed to do at the time. So they showed you that. Yeah. That was enough. But then you had a bit of an incentive one day to go, what's this feature? What's that feature? What's this feature?
Yeah.
So it's that little nudge to just have a click around that. I know, mentioning Postman again, but you often click around their UI and see, what new things are hidden and stuff when we're doing training and things. So just, and recently Selenium 4, came out yesterday. There's lots of bells and whistles hidden in that, and Selenium is one of those tools that, there isn't really good centralized, docs that explain everything. But it is, if you download the SDKs and you start doing dots and, and the IntelliSense helps you out, you discover lots of things. So learning the tool for one purpose is cool and works, but then if you do have time, see what other features, that tool can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then last one, Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea. Sharing about Miro, and it's insane how much Miro has appeared in our lives in the last sort of year or so. But seeing it, the majority of the times I've seen Miro used is in some sort of testing context. I suppose in a training context as well. But yeah, outlining testing strategies to a customer. So this, I literally was being shown one just before this call, a model, an SDLC model drawn out in Miro as well. So yeah, a lot of people using it as a way to sort of communicate their testing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I said though, I think obviously the global panini that's on the go still, that kind of led to the increase in people using these tools. So, Mural, Miro, there's lots of them out there. But yeah, again, it's the flexibility of a whiteboard, right? I'm a huge whiteboard fan. Yeah, you can use it in so many fun, creative ways, but also the very serious ways as well. So yeah, Miro, great tool. Well, there we are.
Cool.
So we will be back tomorrow for Challenge 15, halfway point.
Yes.
And if you've not taken part yet, please, you can go back over the club. You can use if you click on the 30 days of testing tag on the club, you can see all the previous threads. Or if you want to go to the URL on the screen, you can jump straight into the MOT website where we're collating everything that's been going on. So if people have been blogging, any club posts, anything really, it's all collated onto that page. If you're not subscribed yet, you can click the subscribe button on that URL below to get the updates into your inbox and for the challenges. But also, if you've not subscribed to YouTube, if that's where you're watching us, do that as well, because
And we have over 500 people now taking the challenges. That's insane. That's so good.
That is cool. But yeah, apart from that, have a great afternoon.
Test Bash. Test.bash. Don't forget Test.bash is coming up.
Yes.
2 weeks time.
2 weeks today. We have Test.bash. So a lot of the work that we've been going on about tools, we have a 12-hour conference completely online where we've basically got, I can't remember now, but I think over 14 different talks on the go. Basically, we've given people we've given people 4 outlines or 5 outlines to choose from. So we're going to hear like the same talk, but in completely different contexts, with completely different tools and experiences. And it's been quite an interesting experience that's got a very positive response so far. It's going to be included in your pro membership. So if you're a pro member, Ministry of Testing, then you can join straight away. Just click register. Or if you're not pro, go pro. Or if you just want to buy a ticket, it's £75, which is not a lot. We're not one of these orgs that's trying to charge you hundreds of euros to join an online conference.
Yeah.
The cost is so much lower, therefore the ticket cost is also reflected in that. So
and you get
£75
lifetime access.
Yep.
Lifetime access to the videos afterwards as well.
So yeah, we hope to see you there. There's currently just over 300 people registered for that, so we expect it to jump rapidly in the last 2 weeks. It usually does, because everyone forgets when they first hear us tell them about things, and then suddenly you get this little spike. But yeah, be a great event. Got 4 awesome hosts. So we've got Bernard's returning, Gwen's returning for Test.Bash, and we have 2 new awesome hosts, Callum Akers Ryan and Lavina. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome day. So I hope we see you there 2 weeks today. Go on in with your website, click on events, scroll down to Test.Bash. Everything you need to know is there. Let's go. Have a great day. See you later, Mark.
See you later,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.